Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the People and Processes Best Practices webinar series. Today we have Ricky Smith talking about best practices in maintenance, supervision, and leadership. Ricky has over 30 years experience in manufacturing, facilities, mining, and military organizations as both a practitioner and change agent in the maintenance and reliability worldwide. He worked in corporate roles as both global reliability engineering and maintenance engineering leaders. He began his career as a maintenance technician with Exxon USA, Alumix, Mount Holly, and Hercules Chemical, providing the foundation for his reliability and maintenance experience. Ricky is the co-author or author of at least 8 maintenance and reliability books and is currently working on 2 new books scheduled to release later this year. He is a routine author for maintenance and reliability trade publications during the past 25 years, sharing his insight on maintenance and reliability subjects. Ricky helps people and their organizations succeed using a simple approach which creates long-term value. His vast knowledge and keen insight transitions organizations from their current state to a proactive state, resulting in sustainable culture change, optimal asset reliability, and overall costs. Welcome, Ricky.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for attending this afternoon. I want to talk to you today about best practices in maintenance supervision and leadership. And what are they? Well, 3 takeaways from this webinar. One is the 4 easy to implement best practices in maintenance supervision and leadership. Also the 11 leadership principles. And then basic concepts used to engage your maintenance team. I always say, supervision, I looked for a long time trying to find something that says this, so I had to create it. But supervision is getting average people to do superior work. That's it. I mean, maintenance supervision is so underrated that it's just incredible, what people are missing, what organizations are missing. Because maintenance supervisors are really the crutch of making everything happen the right way. And you know what, this guy, Ron Thomas with Archie Steel wrote this once, and I thought it was great. He said, if a step in a process is skipped or performed at a substandard level, it creates defects known as failures. The output of a healthy maintenance program is optimal asset reliability and optimal costs. I like that. So, I put together just a little brief graphic representation of a proactive workflow model. So we start with work identification, and this is our preventive maintenance, our condition monitoring, our predictive maintenance, and could be TPM, whatever else that you may have, which we identify proactive work, not reactive. Next, the work goes into maintenance planning, where we plan the work. Once it's planned, and then we schedule the work. And then part of that scheduling, once we schedule it, then we go to work execution. And then work order closeout. Next, the failure reporting, analysis, and corrective action system. And this is a continuous improvement loop. And I've had people ask me, okay, which one is the most important? Well, we go back to this, what Ron Thomas said, if a step in the process is skipped or performed at a substandard level, creates defects known as failures. I agree with that, 100%. So every one of these parts of this process are equal. So we must follow the processes, and we must measure them, and then we must ensure that we get the output that we require. Talk about random and infant mortality. These are the type failures that we've seen. 80% are random, and this isn't coming from Ricky Smith. This is known worldwide about this number. 68% of that 80% is infant mortality. In other words, we do something to the equipment that causes it to fail prematurely, and then it levels out to just normal random after that. So if you notice, random is a big issue. So let's talk about the 4 easy to implement best practices in maintenance supervision. It's the difference between success and failure. I like what I call the crawl, walk, run theory. And I don't know how many have been in the military, but I know when I was in the Army, that was a big deal. We want to crawl first before we walk, and then we'll run. But we have to accomplish one at a time. So step 1, education and maintenance best practices. This is my recommendation. Monthly training, webinars with me. Let's kick it off for you. If you want me to kick off a training series for you, and you're going to do yourself, I'll be glad to do that on maintenance best practices. But we need to have monthly training with our people. When I was a maintenance supervisor, this is one of the things I did was actually sit down with my people every week, and we did a 15-minute, what we call a toolbox talk, because we were talking around the toolboxes in the maintenance shop. Next is clean the shop, assign everyone responsibilities, and rotate. Now, this was a big issue with me when I first became a maintenance supervisor. The shop was totally dysfunctional. It was dirty. I mean, it looked like a bunch of, cannibals that had been living there. It was terrible. So first thing I did was had everybody clean the shop. And, of course, you're going to hear a lot of people complaining and so on. And then I assigned responsibilities to everyone. Someone was in charge of keeping the shop clean. And one guy said, well, I'm not the one that maybe gets it dirty, so I got to clean up after someone else. I said, no, you don't have to. You can just talk to that person and say, hey, don't leave your stuff laying around and everything will be cool. And then the next thing, one of the things I worked on was the tool in the shop. We had a tool crib, tool cage. So in there, we had one person responsible for that. And everybody had what they call a tool chip. What they did when they took a crew tool off of the shelf or off of a rack, they had to put their tool chip up on a little peg. And that said who had that tool. Well, somebody's responsible for that tool room every week. And if all the tools aren't in by the end of the day, and they look up there and say, okay, Jimmy's didn't bring back the pipe wrench, then they have to go out and find Jimmy and say, hey, where's that pipe wrench at? And I'll tell you, at first it seems a little chaotic, but after a while things start moving real smooth. And also in the tool crib, also had a lay down area, as I call it, where if we damage something like a portaband saw or, a whole hog or whatever it is, pipe wrench, whatever, you name it. Whatever was damaged, they put it in that area, and that person assigned that week for the tool room would have to actually send it out and get it repaired. So, and this thing rotated every week. It worked great. The problem is I had to fire because I had 15 people on my crew. I didn't want anybody to go without 2 weeks without having, some responsibility. So I had to get real creative on different areas of responsibilities. Vendor training. Oh, man, this is a big one. No sales rule. My rule was if you come in and talk sales to my people, I'm going to take you by the back of the neck. Excuse me, I apologize to you, but take them by the back of the neck and walk them out of the plant. We're not going to tolerate it. Vendors training works out well with bearings and seals, etc. Lubrication is a great one. And a lot of these people, salespeople, but they know this stuff. They know this information because they go through a lot of training to receive that. We don't need in-depth stuff. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we miss, that our technicians miss, is the basics. Electric motor maintenance, great one. Contamination control. And next is select a volunteer, to conduct toolbox training. Like I was talking about the monthly training, select someone what I call toolbox talk. That's where everybody knows something no one knows, I guarantee you. And then keep things fresh and exciting with all training. And I always say this, it isn't what you know that will kill you, it's what you don't know that will. Step 2, this is week 3 and 4, respect, humility, and professionalism. So one of the things is talk with your crew about being the best maintenance crew in your organization and what that may look like, because you may not be the best maintenance crew right now. So if you tell everyone that they're the best maintenance crew and they know they're not, then it's really not going to get you anywhere. I'd just rather be honest with you. What do you think we are? I mean, I don't have to say it, because if I say it, they may think I'm taking them down to a lower level. So ask them, where are we? Are we the best maintenance crew in this organization or not? If not, what does the best maintenance crew look like? And then tell them we want others in the organization to say, I want to be like that crew. I want to be on that crew if possible, but I would like to work like that crew works. And I'm telling you from words of struggling through as a maintenance supervisor and finally becoming, accountable and really successful in maintenance supervision. That's why I love this topic. Reflect with them on the words. just reflect with your crew on the words respect, humility, and professionalism. And ask what those words mean to them. I mean, what does that mean? Those words, what do they mean to them? Sorry, I got a misspelling there. Post a sign with these words and talk about them weekly, asking for examples. Respect, humility, professionalism. Contact me if you need ideas. I know it's not easy at first, but you'll catch on to it very quickly, I promise. Start a toolbox talk session weekly. Talked about that. Should be focused on a behavior which needs to change. And what you'll find out is the maintenance people will actually come up with them. At first, you may have to come up with them, but they'll come up with one. So develop the first toolbox talks yourself. I can help with recommendations. What's the pain point, whatever, and you teach them. So you teach the first toolbox talk, and then later let the crew create and teach those toolbox talks. An example: crew tools. Are they broken, lost, etc.? Think about how to present this to the crew without accusing them of anything, and ask them what should we do. And then be prepared. If no one has recommended a solution, then you need to ask, what are your thoughts about whatever? You got to be prepared for it, because at first people are just sitting there looking at you and they're like giving you the 1,000-mile stare, as I call it. And they're not giving you any recommendations. So you may have to kind of prod them along. Next, step 4, sign over the door and in the shop. The adult learning principle I learned a long time ago was see or do something 7 to 21 times in order to retain it. And the sign over the door, I've trained a lot of maintenance managers over my career. And one of the things I always pushed for was them to put a sign over their door, hanging down about 6 inches, that says these words, maintenance, to maintain, keep, preserve, protect. And one on a metal, like maybe aluminum, plate, you actually glue it to, and that way every time you walk out the door, it hits you right in the head, and you back up and look at it and say, that's my job. Maintenance, to maintain, keep, preserve, protect. And then the maintenance shop, post crew and production metrics. I mean, they need to know where they are. And I'd say don't get crazy about the metrics. Only talk about the metrics that mean something to them. 2 to 4 max. Total 11 leadership principles. So you probably wonder where I got these from. These came from when I went to officer candidate school in the Army. Enlisted for many years and went to officer candidate school. This is one thing they beat in your head. And I'll tell you, I find in the personal side, once I got out of the Army, on my side, I use these principles all the time. So principle number 1, know yourself and seek self-improvement. If you know yourself well, you'll know what you need to improve on, and seek the self-improvement, whether it's going to training, whether it's reading a book, talking to someone, whatever it is. Be technically proficient. You don't have to be the master mechanic. You don't have to be a master electrician. But if you're not have a technical background because you've never been in maintenance, it's okay. The thing is, you need to start learning some of the basic concepts. And there's certain areas you can learn those, and it's not complicated. But it helps you start talking to maintenance people, and they start talking to you about issues and problems and so on. Principle number 3, seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions. If you mess up, if you do something wrong, just, hey, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I mean, that's the best thing you can do. Believe me, that's a tough one. That was a tough one for me. Make sound and timely decisions. This is a tough one too, because a lot of people, they may make sound decisions, but they're not necessarily timely. So, that's something you have to really work on. But putting these principles up in front of you so you can see them every day really helps. Set the example. Don't leave before your maintenance people leave. Set the example. What you want them to do, you should do. Know your personnel and look out for their well-being. If someone's got a problem at home or whatever, you don't have to get involved in their business. But it doesn't hurt to ask these people, whoever's having a problem, how can I help? Is there anything I can do to help you? You need time off, or what is it you need? And then principle number 7, keep your followers informed. It's a big deal. Keep your people informed. And that means whatever's going on at the site, in the company, Now, in the crew, in the area, you need to keep your maintenance crew informed, everyone. And then develop a sense of responsibility in your followers. Back to that, giving them an area of responsibility for a certain period of time. And you'd be surprised after a while how it gets so great, how things work. It's overwhelming, I tell you. I mean, not only did that change my status with my crew, but it also changed the way we operated. I mean, things, even just proactive maintenance. I mean, our people just migrated to proactive maintenance after we started doing some of the things that we did. It was incredible. And then ensure each task is understood, supervised, and accomplished. I've said this many times, you know, sitting behind a desk is a bad way to lose your job. You know, I mean, if you're unsure about yourself, it's okay. Just don't hide it. Be honest with your maintenance people. Hey, I'm not technically as confident as you are, and this may not be true, but maybe we want to makes them feel better. I don't know, but you know, that's a big deal. Build a team. You want a team. You don't want one guy over here, one lady over here doing this, and they do it differently or whatever. We want everyone working as a team. So if someone needs help, they know I'm going to go get some help. Somebody's going to help me. Employ your team in accordance with its capabilities. Don't ask your people to do something they cannot do. If it's like contract work and you know your people are not technically competent in that area, like running conduit, pulling wire, whatever it is, don't ask them to do that. And if management is asking you to do it, you need to go back and sit down and talk to your leadership and tell them why. And you don't feel like it's possible or not practical. And if they still say do it, then that's another one of those things. I mean, you have to do what you're told. And do it in a manner that is not reflected to my people. I don't want my people to see that my managers told me to go do this, and I have no option, okay? So I got to get in my mind that I honestly do support it and I honestly believe it, even if I may not. I mean, I hate to say that, but I mean, it's true, okay? So this is part about being leaders. This whole thing I'm talking about, so I developed a training workshop on maintenance, supervision, and leadership, where we're going to talk very little about proactive maintenance. We're going to talk more about how to be a maintenance, how to be a supervisor, and how to be a leader. Some tips and ideas to engage in your workforce. Warning, criticism leads to destruction of the team. So watch out on criticism. Sometimes you have to do, like I used to say, is walk the fence. And I get upset. One of my people get me upset. I'd have to put my pager. We didn't have cell phones back then. Sorry. Put my pager on the desk and walk around the whole site. And it was a pretty good walk. By the time I got back, I was cooled down and I could talk about it. Allow the team to set deadlines, like work assignments and so on. Let them set the timelines that are necessary. I mean, you may know in your head, you know, somebody management's told you I want this done by this date, but talk to your maintenance people. Can it be done in that amount of time? And if they say no, then let's map it out. Let's do the forward planning to the reverse. In other words, we go out to the deadline and we move back with each step and see, can we actually do it in that amount of time? So not to say yes or no, lay it out. Do it methodically. And carefully phrase your comments and concerns. Avoid putting maintenance techs on the defensive. So sometimes we're told by management to do something, or we're upset about the maintenance crew doing something. You know, be careful to put your people on the defensive. Doesn't work. Display concerns for the problems they face, honestly. I mean, honestly. And show you value them. I mean, you got to show that you truly value your maintenance technicians. And one of the things to talk about too, do not blame an individual for setbacks. Instead, stress what finishing the job correctly means for the whole team. Never want to point someone out for something. It's best to do it behind doors, and even then, be careful about talking negative. You should always talk positive. Do not react negatively to bad news. Make heroes of people who keep you informed. And this is what I talk about. You may want to you have to walk the fence. Okay. Avoid words such as should, must, have to, ought to. They feel pushed when we do that, when we use those words. And then excite your team members about work by giving them applause and feedback. Be careful, don't give them, the pat on the back every day, but give them feedback. And then you can give them pat on the back for certain things. So positive reinforcement does work. You just don't want to get carried away with it. Always find something positive to say. If you see something negative, may have to think about it and say, how do I turn this around positive where they won't take it bad? And do unto others as they would have you do unto them. So you want to treat people with respect. Just a few thoughts. Give a friendly daily greeting. I mean, my maintenance crew at first, I'd say, good morning, good morning, good morning. None of them, not one of them, would say anything back to me. It was almost like their eyes would look the other way. Then after about 6 months, 7 months, I mean, I'm no expert, okay? But after a while, one or two started, hey, good morning, and smile on their face. Look them in the eye and say good morning. Look them in the eye and say good morning. Don't look off to the side. Look them in the eye. Be sincere and straightforward with anything you do. They'll see it. They'll know it. Be available when needed. So if someone needs you, you need to be available. Hey, I can't do that right now. Like we had a problem one night with a big press, and one of my guys called me and he said, hey, Rick, I got a problem with the hydraulic press, and I really need some help. And I really knew hydraulics well, so I went in and helped him, and it worked out very well, very well. I mean, he really appreciated me coming in. He thought I was going to call somebody else in, but I didn't know anybody else had the background I had in that area. Circulate among your employees. Just kind of, during the day, just kind of flow around through them. You don't have to stand over them, because the first thing they're going to do when you stand there and look at what they're doing, they'll say, what are you looking at? I say, hey, I'm just checking out a marvelous job today. I'm just kidding. But you can find something to use. But at first, you have to be careful. Don't get overpowering with some of the things I'm telling you. Take it one step at a time. Show concern and be an alert to complaints. So if someone has a concern, you should see it. If they have a complaint, you need to address it. And I say in a complaint, typically what I gave myself was 24 hours. And if I couldn't get it solved in 24 hours, then I would tell the person, it's going to take me a little bit more time. I've been working on it, but I can't get it done in 24 hours. So I'm going to add another 2 days, 3 days max. If you can't solve it in 3 days, you probably need to take it to the next level. Criticize fairly and privately. Don't criticize anyone in front of somebody else. Do it privately. And even then, you got to be careful how you criticize. Work as a team. That's a big deal. Work as a team. Understand everyone is different. Some may have a better attitude, and some have different skills. So we have to be aware of that. I like that's what John Maxwell said. Leaders become great, not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others. That's what a great leader is. And that's what we're talking about with maintenance supervision, being a great leader. So what's coming up? Maintenance leadership and supervision training in Houston, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia. We'd love to see you there. I'm the instructor. So we'll have a good time. I promise you that. Bring any of your concerns. Bring your problems with you. Bring the issues you're facing, and let's solve them in the class. Because it's a great thing, because somebody else in that class probably has the same issue you have. So by solving your problem in class, it'll solve others. Now, throw this out. We're at the end of our presentation. Let's open up for questions. Tammy?
Actually, Ricky, we're going to do a few poll questions.
Okay.
So I'm going to launch poll number 1.
And everybody needs to think about their own questions, too.
How would you rate your organization? As a proactive organization, a reactive organization, or don't know? Give it a few more minutes for everybody to vote. All right. Ricky, it looks like 63% say that they are reactive and 37% say proactive.
Okay, that's good. That's good. You got to know where you are before you can start a journey. So, knowing you're reactive and knowing you're proactive is a big deal. Okay.
All right, poll number 2. Are your supervisors also your planner schedulers? Yes, no, or don't know? %40 yes, 60% no.
40%. I feel for you guys, 40%. If you're doing planning and scheduling along with maintenance supervision, that's very, very difficult. I just ask you to, if I were you, I'd send me an email and let's talk about it, and I can give you some ideas. But there are multiple ways to make it work. I mean, one of the things I have done quite a few times is that, like a crew, let's say you got anywhere from 5 to 15 people, just select one person and say, hey, I'd like you to become our planner scheduler. And if they agree, then they can still a maintenance technician. We haven't changed their job title. I'm just going to write a work order assigning them to plan and schedule work. But I'm going to send them to training, maybe get them someone to coach them, and then you'll start seeing your wrench time go from a very low percentage to a very high percentage. In other words, hands-on tool time can go from, at most companies, between 20 and 30%. It can go to 40, 60, 70%. Okay. Sorry, Tammy.
That's okay. Let's see. Let's do poll number 3. How much time do you spend in your office versus the field? 75% in the office, 25% field, 50-50, or 25% office and 75% in the field?
Be honest now.
All right, looks like everybody's voted. Looks like 32% is 75% office, 25% field, 50% is 50-50, and 18% is 25% office, 75% field.
Okay. Different situations warrant different applications. I mean, I found that mine, I tried to, at first I was working more like 60% in the office and 40% in the field, maybe less than that in the field. But ultimately I got to the point where I was about 20-25% in the office, and the rest of the time I was out in the field, out with the people. I mean, you don't want to be someone standing over the shoulder watching them. I mean, this is something you have to merge into, like merging into traffic and rush hour. You got to just carefully merge into it. Okay?
All right, and our last poll question. How is training conducted in your organization? Do you do in-house training only? Do you send employees out to public training courses? Do you have private on-site training courses? Or do you do no training?
It's an interesting question.
Everybody's thinking about this one. All right, looks like everybody's voted. 33% in-house training only, 37% send to public training, 27% private on-site, and 3% no training.
Yeah. I'll tell you, you ones with 3% no training, that's difficult for sure. Attending these WebExes and bringing your maintenance technicians to sit down and listen to some of these WebExes is a great way to get them educated and getting them moved forward, because like with me, when I was maintenance supervisor, I couldn't send any of my maintenance people anywhere. After we started improving reliability of our equipment, and it took a while because the equipment hadn't been maintained properly for many years. After we started getting the equipment maintained properly, then I went and asked for funding to take my people, send my people off to training. And I give them expectations of them too. You can't go off and just come back. Here's what what I think you should bring back, or maybe you should tell me, what do you think you're going to come back and deliver? Teach the rest of the crew. So anyway, all right, Tammy.
All right, and then we've got a few questions for you here, Ricky. Let's see. Which is more important, being a good supervisor or a good leader?
Whoa, that's a tough one. Probably being a good leader. I mean, leaders people follow. Supervision is more of a somatics. It's more of, mechanical thing. That's why I like leadership. Leadership, I always say, is if you stand up and walk out the room and someone follows you, you're a leader. So it's a difficult one. Okay?
All right, our next question is, should a maintenance supervisor assist with repairs?
No. I mean, there's nothing wrong with giving, if people need advice or they need help or whatever, you need to bring other people in. But I know sometimes some of you probably are in a situation where you do work as more of a lead man than a supervisor. And I understand that because I've worked as a lead man before too, or lead person now, I'm sorry. But I have to tell you that the more you get away from the tools and stand back, the better your crew will respond and will be creative, do their job very well. Okay?
All right, and the last question is, I have 25 employees. Is this too many for me to supervise?
Absolutely. Span of control for a maintenance supervisor, typically 5 to 15. I mean, you can go to 20, but if I got 20, you need to at least make one of them a lead person. And it doesn't necessarily mean they could be promoted or whatever. Say, I need help with managing our work, and I appreciate a volunteer for this next week, blah, blah, blah. Anybody willing to volunteer to let's just help with the oversight and help people with technical problems. So there's probably a few people on your crew that are technically competent, very technically competent, and can communicate. And just both things are the big deal, and that people will listen to. So, that's basically what I would do. But you can't manage with 25 people. I don't know. If you're there now, send me an email and let's talk. Fine, we'll figure out a way to solve this problem. Okay?
All right, looks like that is all of the questions for you, Ricky.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time, and hopefully see you at one of the workshops. If you want to come to one and maybe even bring your boss with you, it might be a good idea. That way you're on line with them. So anyway, have a great day, and send me an email if you need something. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.